If you listen to current industry hype, you might believe deep learning is the entirety of artificial intelligence. But that monolithic view fractures the moment you look beneath the surface. Deep neural networks are simply one specialized branch within a much larger, highly varied ecosystem of machine learning methods. The actual challenge in implementing artificial intelligence is achieving strict algorithm problem fit. You have to match the specific mathematical mechanics of a model to the exact nature of the problem you are trying to solve. You can possess the most pristine, perfectly structured dataset in the world, but if you apply the wrong architectural model to process it, the system will fail. To deploy AI products successfully, engineers have to navigate this massive range of options. You need a rigorous intuition for the machine learning taxonomy, specifically understanding exactly how different algorithms acquire data, scale computationally, and calculate probabilities. The topmost level of our taxonomy divides models based on their initial conditions, specifically the availability and structure of the data they use to learn. Supervised learning uses training data fully equipped with inputs or features and corresponding output labels, mapping them until it establishes a clear decision boundary. Unsupervised learning removes these labels. The algorithm receives only raw features, autonomously grouping points into clusters based purely on mathematical similarity. Between these two lies semi-supervised learning. Here, the system starts with only a small subset of labeled data. The algorithm then searches the wider possibility space, actively picking which new, unlabeled data points should be acquired to best optimize its model. Then we have reinforcement learning, which operates without static datasets entirely. Instead, the algorithm trains over a continuous series of experiences in an environment. It learns by balancing the exploration of new actions with a mandate to maximize a specific, localized reward. This is the exact mechanism AlphaGo used to teach itself superior strategies in the game of Go, achieving performance levels far beyond human capability, simply by maximizing its reward function over millions of simulated matches. The presence, absence, or computational cost of human-labeled data is the hard constraint that dictates the very first branch of the taxonomy you must select. Once the data strategy is set, we have to evaluate the physical nature of the models themselves, specifically how their geometric structure and computational footprint behave at scale. In parametric models, internal structure and total coefficients are fixed. Flooding it with new samples shifts the curve, but foundational complexity remains static. Conversely, non-parametric models are dynamic. Their geometric complexity physically expands in direct correlation with the volume of data you feed them. A formal method like nearest neighbors does exactly this. It memorizes previously observed data pairs, and when presented with a new input, it estimates the output based purely on spatial proximity to those stored values. The larger the dataset, the heavier the computation. Engineering requires a calculation of these limits. You must weigh the escalating computational cost of a dynamically expanding non-parametric model against the rigid, limiting assumptions of a fixed parametric one. The final structural characteristic in our foundational taxonomy addresses the underlying probability governing the relationship between inputs and outputs. Discriminative models are forward-facing probability engines. Given an input, they calculate a forward prediction, outputting the discrete probability of a specific label. Generative models operate in reverse. Given a known output, they calculate the probability distribution of which specific inputs likely cause that result. If a manufacturing line records a critical failure, a generative model allows you to feed that anomaly backward through the system to trace the exact probability of which equipment settings were responsible. Generative adversarial networks, or GANs, combine these features. By colliding a forward-predicting model against a reverse mapping one, they synthesize entirely new, highly realistic artificial data, generating photorealistic human faces out of mathematical noise. The choice between a forward discriminative classification and a reverse generative analysis dictates the physical capabilities of your system. In production, these architectural choices do not exist in isolation. Advanced AI pipelines require engineers to stack multiple methodologies from across the taxonomy to address highly complex systems. The computational biology group at MIT serves as a testing ground for this multi-model integration, specifically within the research of Professor Manolis Kellis. The specific target is lung cancer. While 80% of cases are linked to avoidable causes, at least 8% are strictly genetic. The goal is to accurately identify early genetic predisposition, allowing for early, survivable detection. To map this, his team is building GenCode, an encyclopedia of genetic variants. This requires an intricate pipeline. The system sequentially slices genomic datasets using flat support vector machine decision boundaries, parses them through tree-based models, and refines the data using linear regression, all to systematically separate common gene variants from rare ones. This combination allows the system to determine intricate patterns of sameness, evaluating billions of closely related genomic data points simultaneously. High-dimensional biological data is too dense for a single mathematical tool. It demands an integrated architectural symphony pulling from the entire machine learning taxonomy. Beyond cancer detection, Professor Kellis's team looks at pathways, the complex interactions between multiple genes that trigger specific diseases. Mapping these pathways revealed the exact genetic combination that incorrectly signals cells to store fat instead of burning it. By identifying this exact malfunctioning mechanism, they were able to override it. In experiments with mice, they triggered fat-burning pathways, effectively reversing obesity. Professor Kellis views these disease-causing interactions as wrong turns in the evolutionary process. He envisions a collaborative effort where machine learning maps these pathways across populations to systematically identify and eventually correct these evolutionary errors. This reversal of a physical condition was achieved through the meticulous selection of specific mathematical models, not a generic one-size-fits-all approach to AI. The ability to intervene in these complex biological systems depends on an engineer's capacity to navigate the machine learning taxonomy and match the right mathematical model to the right high-dimensional problem.